One evening, after I had a coffee at Starbucks, I decided to take a walk around the city. I was walking down the street when I noticed a strange figure in a dark alley. I decided to get closer to see her. To my horror, it was a man in a red robe and hood who was standing with his back to me. I tried to walk past him, but he turned and looked at me. I saw his face, which was covered with dark tattoos. He started coming towards me, and I decided to run away. I ran down the street, but he didn't lag behind. I turned into another alley and saw an abandoned building. I decided to hide there, hoping he wouldn't find me. I climbed to the top floor of the building and sat down in a corner. I thought I was safe, but a few minutes later I heard footsteps on the stairs. I realized that he had found me. I closed my eyes and waited for what would happen next. I heard his footsteps when he came up to me. I felt him touch my arm and I opened my eyes. I saw his face, which was distorted with horror. He said something to me in an incomprehensible language, and I realized that he was not a person. I closed my eyes and began to pray, hoping that it would all pass. When I opened my eyes again, I was outside and the building was destroyed. I realized it was a nightmare after coffee at Starbucks. Since then, I no longer drink coffee at Starbucks after sunset. I came home shaking with fear and couldn't believe it was just a nightmare. I decided not to walk alone in the city after sunset anymore. But a few days later, I happened to meet the same man in a red robe and hood at the same Starbucks where I was drinking coffee that terrible evening. I tried to run away, but he stopped me and started talking in the same incomprehensible language. I couldn't understand what he was saying, but I felt that he wanted to tell me something. He pulled a piece of paper out of his pocket and handed it to me. It read, "Beware of the dark forces." I didn't know what to do, but I felt it was important. I decided to study this topic and started reading books about mystical beings and dark forces. Since then, I am no longer afraid of nightmares and strange figures in red robes. I know that there is a world beyond our understanding, and I am ready for it. I continue to drink coffee at Starbucks, but now I always look around and protect my soul from dark forces. I started noticing a lot of strange things around me, shadows moving for no apparent reason, sounds that no one else had heard. I understood that these were manifestations of the same dark forces that the stranger in the red robe had warned me about. I began to study various methods of protection against these forces, magical amulets, spells, meditations. I found a community of people interested in the occult and began to communicate with them. But one day I realized that not all dark forces are evil. I met the spirit of the forest who helped me figure out a difficult life situation. I realized that the world of occultism and mysticism is not as scary and dangerous as it seemed to me before. Now I continue to study this topic, but not out of fear, but out of curiosity and a desire to understand more about the world that surrounds us. I know that dark forces exist, but I also know that there are light ones, and I am ready to fight for my soul and protect others from those who want to harm. I began to study not only protection, but also ways of contacting the spiritual world. I started practicing meditation and gained more and more depth in my practices. One day I received a sign from my spiritual mentor who showed me that I should help other people who are experiencing difficulties in communicating with the spiritual world. I started working with people who need help in contact with the spiritual world. I help them find their way and connect with spiritual forces that can help them in their lives. I understand that this is not an easy job, but I am ready to fight for my clients and help them find their way in life. Now I know that the world of occultism and mysticism is not as scary and dangerous as it seemed to me before. I am ready to continue studying this topic and help other people find their way in life. I, like many other people, like to go to Starbucks for a cup of coffee. But one day after I drank my favorite cappuccino, strange things started happening. When I left the Starbucks, I noticed that the streets had become deserted. There was no one around, and it was very strange for such a busy area. I decided to go back inside Starbucks to find out what was going on, but when I opened the door, I found that everything inside was empty and dark. There were no staff or other visitors. I started to feel very restless and decided to leave this place. But when I went outside, I noticed that all the buildings and cars were gone. I was surrounded only by darkness and silence. I started to panic and tried to find a way out of this situation. But then I heard a whisper of a voice. "You shouldn't have gone to Starbucks." I turned around, but there was no one around. I started running and eventually found a way out of this strange reality. I never went to Starbucks again after that incident, and now I'm always careful when it comes to mysterious incidents. I couldn't figure out what had happened. How could I be in such a strange reality? I started looking for answers and turned to experts in the field of paranormal phenomena. They told me that Starbucks could be a portal to other worlds and dimensions. They warned me that if I decide to go to Starbucks again, I should be prepared for any consequences. I decided never to risk going to Starbucks again, but one day, when I was passing by, I heard a familiar voice. "Come to me," he whispered. I stopped and thought, maybe I should take a chance and find out more about what's going on at Starbucks. I made up my mind and went inside. Inside, everything was as usual. I ordered my favorite cappuccino and sat down at a table. Nothing strange happened. I finished my coffee and went outside. Everything was as usual. I realized that all this was just my fantasy, and now I know that Starbucks is just a place where you can have a good coffee. But I will always be careful, and I will not risk my life for a cup of coffee. I realized that it is important not to believe rumors and not to succumb to provocations. I have become more aware and cautious when it comes to paranormal phenomena. But one day I met a man who claimed to know how to use a Starbucks portal to get into another world. I was intrigued and decided to give it a try. We walked into a Starbucks and sat down at a table. The man pulled an artifact out of his pocket and put it on the table. He started to recite some spells, and suddenly everything around him began to change. I found myself in another world. It was incredible. Everything was different. Colors, sounds, smells. I was shocked and delighted at the same time. We spent several hours there, studying this world and its inhabitants. But then I realized that I had to go back. I asked the person to help me, and he agreed. We went back to Starbucks, and I realized it was the most incredible journey of my life. I am grateful to the person who helped me do this, but now I know that portals to other worlds are not jokes or games. I will no longer risk my life for the sake of curiosity, but I will always remember that there are many incredible things in this world that we don't know yet. I understand that the world of paranormal phenomena and portals to other worlds can be dangerous and unexplored. I will no longer insist on trying something like this again. However, this journey has helped me broaden my horizons and learn about new opportunities. I will continue to study this topic, but with more caution and common sense. Now I understand that not everything that is said or shown on the internet or in real life can be true. I will be more critical of the information and not take everything at its word. But I also realize that the world of paranormal phenomena and portals to other worlds can be amazing and exciting. I will continue to explore this topic, but only in a safe environment and with the help of proven and reliable sources.